All right, so thanks so much for coming on. I think, we'll talk a lot more about why you're doing the speaking gig, how it's benefited you, what you talk about as well. And yeah, I think that value and, you've spoken to me about it before, about pair programming, and that's what you guys, I follow from afar, but like it looks like a lot of your talks are based around that, and the value it adds to, I guess, software engineering teams. But I think we want to go back to the start. I mean, looking at, been creeping on you online and, your background and, you don't seem like the typical person. There is no typical person to get into software development or engineering, but like, background before was like hospitality and Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Am I saying Muay Thai? Muay Thai?
Muay Thai?
Muay Thai. That's it. That's what I meant to say. Muay Thai. Well, I don't know why I say Muay Thai. Muay Thai?
I think it's an Australian thing.
Maybe. Yeah. We tend to like just muck up or screw up a lot of words, don't we? Yeah. Muay Thai and yeah, software development, software engineering. So, why'd you get into it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Well, when I left high school, I'm going to go way back now, I actually had no idea about coding or software engineering. I didn't know it was a thing. Yeah. Didn't know anything about it. So when I left high school, I went to uni to study landscape architecture.
Oh, nice. I did landscape. Not the architecture side of things. I was just digging holes.
Landscaper.
I was just digging holes. Yeah. Digging holes, building rock walls were our thing. Yeah.
Okay, well, I was drawing pictures of those rock walls.
Nice. I was jealous of you in your air-conditioned office and drawing things while I was...
Yeah, not too bad. But I didn't actually finish the study. I kind of realised I didn't really like studying other people's stuff. I was more interested in something hands-on.
Fair. Yep.
So I stopped doing that. But the whole time I was at uni, I was working in hospitality. So I've been, working in part-time jobs since I was 15, alongside of school kind of thing. So by the time I was at uni, I was kind of, running a nightclub, stopped doing landscape architecture. Now I'm running a nightclub full-time and I'm 20 and I'm like, oh my God, this is great. This is the best thing in the world. I get paid to have a party every day. I can drink whatever I want. Yeah. I'm just out dancing. But, you do it too long and it becomes a little bit kind of toxic. Yeah.
Have you, Futurama, there's an episode, it was like the party guy and he's like non-stop party. And he's like, what? I just want to spend the night at home and order pizza and hang out with friends. And is that too much to ask?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like that, yeah, because this nightclub I was running is like, they were open till 6 a.m. 5 nights a week.
Yeah, right.
And our main clientele was like 3 till 6.
Yep.
So like after everything else is closed, like all the other hospitality staff, when they finished, we were like where they would go to have a drink. But obviously, we kind of started at 5 p.m, so we got stuff going the whole time through.
You were a vampire.
I was an absolute vampire, but I did that for about 4 years. And it kind of got, like I said, really toxic. Like at some point, I literally could not get through my shift without getting shit-faced.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of alcohol. Kind of the people around me as well, they sort of realised that I'd be a bit more relaxed if I had a bit to drink.
Yeah.
So they kind of also kind of helped give me drinks to relax me. And I don't want to blame anyone because obviously it's all my decision. But it got just so out of control. And at some point I sort of realised, wow, this isn't fun anymore. I kind of want to do something meaningful. And so, I just decided to quit my job without anything else lined up. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And it was one of my best regulars at that nightclub who turned around to me one day and he said, have you ever thought of coding? I said, what the hell are you talking about? And he goes, coding, like I'm a software engineer. I just write code all day. And he showed me it and I was like, really? You get paid to do that? Because it's kind of like you're just playing these games, right? You're just like solving little puzzles. And so his name is Tom Cully. He introduced me to software and the whole concept. And he started to send me these little kind of like problems and like homework, like go find out about von Neumann architecture. How do you traverse a binary tree? How do you, convert hexadecimal to binary? And I just, for whatever reason, I was interested by it, and so I went and did that research. And then he was kind of like, oh, cool. Well, let's write some code together.
Yeah.
We wrote this. We used this archaic kind of system called Assembly 68K. We wrote this little dice game. He basically convinced me to. Well, it wasn't hard to convince me at the time, I suppose, but I pretty much used my life savings to go out and buy a Mac Air, the cheapest one that I could get, so that I could do some coding. And we wrote this little game, and then we wrote a chat server in C, and then we did some Ruby on Rails, and then I was like, by that time I was working running a restaurant, because I wanted to get out of the nights into the days. And I was using this reservation software, and it was a hunk of junk. And I was like, do you know what? I reckon I could use this software, this code, and I could do a better job. Yeah. So I started building this reservation software. That's how I learned Ruby on Rails. Yep. Just by doing that, in my kind of free time. And yeah, that's where it all started.
Did you get to implement that software to the restaurant that you're working at?
No chance.
No chance. Even with that ability and you working there, nah, we're not going to use it.
Well, it was more that I reckon if I got it working, I probably could have implemented it, but I never actually got that far. Okay. I did build like the website for the company, have a go at that. But that's kind of just like a static website. It's not overly difficult, to do. But yeah, I kind of didn't get far enough with the reservation software to go anywhere with it. Yep. And then, I kind of realised how difficult it would be if you wanted to have your own sort of product or business or whatever, and I'd actually prefer to work with other people so that I can learn from them and learn the skills to be a good engineer. Yep. And then what? How'd you get your first job? Tom introduced me to a friend of his who had a startup for like a payroll software. Yep. And he wanted some extra help, and so I met with him and we had a coffee, and then we looked at some code, and then he gave me a little test. And it's kind of, I don't know, funny if I look back now, because it was just some HTML on a page, and I just had put in all these like spaces, like TD, 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 to get this thing in the middle of the page, like ridiculous stuff. Anyway, he ended up giving me a job, but I was like so junior. It really lasted about 6 weeks, and he said, look, we can't keep doing this anymore. Yeah. Which was pretty devastating, because I'd just been convinced that I'm going to be a software engineer. Yeah. This is going to be great. But it's, kind of lucky I was working for a really good person at the restaurant. The guy who owned that place also owned the nightclub I'd been running for all the previous years, so he was very supportive of me to move into this role and then come back when it didn't work out, and then, pursue again the career. Yep. So there was a whole bunch of sort of ups and downs, a lot of downs that all happened around the same time. And somewhere along the line, I was introduced to somebody else who happened to be working for a large company in New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand. Yeah, we figured that. Okay. Yeah. Picked that up, kind of. So if you can't understand me, that's why. No, it's difficult, but I'm listening very closely. Okay. I'm sure everyone else is as well. Yeah. No, I was introduced to another guy who was working for a larger company, and he was hiring people at the time, and so he was kind of, giving me some pointers on, like, I'm looking through a lot of CVs and they all look the same. You need something to make you stand out. If you don't have, computer science background, I need to see something that I can work with. Yep. Straight away. Like, what skills have you got that are, that you've got this proven skills and knowledge that are transferable, that you can just start working, that you're immediately going to be useful to me. And so he kind of made a few recommendations, and I don't know if it's still the thing, but at the time he was like, put a picture of yourself on your CV. I don't know if that's a thing anymore. I don't think so. Controversial. At the time, that was his advice to me, because that's when there was a bit more of a push for diversity and getting more women, and you maybe have a little bit more of a shot because you happen to be a woman.
Look, all those things are correct, and it's still very, very true today. Like, women, it's still big things. From what I've read and with own, like, as soon as pictures go on CV, it automatically adds to unconscious bias.
Yep.
And it's not necessarily about, like, is this looking at, like, is this looks? So
for sure.
Yeah. It's the same with names, actually. Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But
well, anyway, that was something he said to me at the time.
Cool.
So I did that.
You stood out, though, which is good.
Stood out, exactly. And then he was like, you've got these projects that you're working on. So you've built this website for the restaurant. You've got your own blog. You're writing on your blog. You've got this reservation software that you're working on. Like, list all of those things at the top of your CV as, like, here's projects
100%.
that I've been working on. And then he said the other thing at the time as well that was interesting to him was if you go and get AWS certified, then I know you know AWS, and I know that I can use you straight away.
Oh, yeah?
So he told me to do that, and obviously I took his advice. So I went out and got AWS certified, and as soon as I got certified, I uploaded it to all of my profiles on, all the, LinkedIn
I don't
jobs
know what big
and
things
stuff like
are
that.
in New Zealand. Is it Seek still and stuff? Yeah.
I don't know, I haven't been there for a while.
Yeah, fair enough, yeah.
It was actually a small one that I wasn't really that familiar with. Indeed, I think. Anyway.
Just a small one.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Well, it was less common in New Zealand.
Yeah, sure.
But anyway, I uploaded all my details, and then it was so weird. It was like magic, because the next day, this guy from Auckland calls me.
Yeah.
He goes, Selena, I've just seen your CV. It's just come up on my feed. I'm really interested to talk to you. And this was he was in Auckland and I was in Wellington, and he said, I'm really interested to talk to you and meet you. How would you feel about coming up to Auckland for an interview? I'll pay for the flights, I'll organise a taxi, come and meet us, let's have a chat.
Yeah, fantastic.
So then I go up there and I have a chat, and I don't know what my magic source is, but he literally, in that meeting, so I meet him and he goes, what are you looking for? What do you want? And I was kind of like, I've got this hospitality background, I'm learning to code, I don't have a lot of experience, but I really want to learn. And he sort of said, well, we could maybe give you a role that's like part-time sort of office kind of like assistant, a part-time junior developer, and we'll teach you to code and eventually transition you into being a developer. And I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then I somehow negotiated a better salary than what he was offering as well, and got him to pay for like relocation. And he was just like, we want you, come and work for us.
Yeah, fantastic. And that's Fresho, where you've been since? Or?
No.
This
was another company in New Zealand. So that was like so surreal.
Yeah, wow.
It was crazy. I never ended up doing any office administration. I was just full-time junior developer. And I was there for about a year and a half. And they were a very small company. And I was mainly working by myself, like on a project that was internal to their company. Mm-hmm. And I kind of realised after a year and a half, like, what I really want to be doing is working with people who I can learn from.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And so that's where I started looking further.
Mm-hmm.
New Zealand is very small, and I've always been very keen to leave New Zealand.
Yep, fair enough.
So started looking in Melbourne, and that's where I found Fresho.
Yep, it's super interesting, and I think some really key important takeaways there for a lot of people who are coming from like a non-traditional background, don't have a software engineering degree. It's like really doing something to make yourself stand out and talking about those projects that you worked on. So what you're doing in your spare time or outside of, everyone's got to put food on their plate, right? Especially at the time of what are you doing to get into the industry, listing those passions, and also those transferable skills. So I don't know what was on that CV, but if I'm thinking out loud here, it's things about your leadership capability, your management, dealing with difficult stakeholders from...
For sure.
A lot of those things that are definitely transferable, and really does make you stand out as an individual as to because you in those studies you are going up against other graduates with degrees and stuff like that, so it can be daunting, can be difficult. So
yeah, that's right. And if I look now I'm leading a team and I'm sort of in a position where I'm building a team and I'm potentially hiring people as well. When I think about who are the sort of people that I'd want to hire, when I start thinking about that and I kind of look back at my CV and where I was at when I started as well, I think one of the real big things that I look for and that I've heard plenty of other people also look for is, are you a hard worker? Like, can I see that from your CV? Like, are you just, going with the flow and just doing whatever kind of comes up because you're just naturally good at it? Or are you going out of your way and trying to improve your skills and improve yourself and doing more, doing not like more than necessary, but doing a lot of things.
Yep.
So at the time I was, so I actually started kickboxing at the same time as I started coding.
Yeah.
And so that was another thing maybe that I listed on my CV as well, because I've got into this kickboxing thing, and now I'm competing, and I'm going out there and I'm putting in this work and this effort into this thing that I'm interested in, and then I'm learning to code and I'm spending all my time doing that, and I've got all these projects, and I'm also managing a restaurant. So it's kind of like you show that you are a hard worker and that you're really trying to make something of yourself. And I think companies and teams appreciate people who are going to go that little extra mile to be the best that they can be.
Yeah, that's super fascinating. I'm glad you brought up the kickboxing side of things, because it's definitely not every day I do see that, particularly in IT. I think I've seen one other person who has gone down, and you do see the odd corporate fighter sign up and stuff like that, but no, I don't think I've ever come across someone who's actually basically almost professional or semi-professional kickboxer. What do you think you've learnt from that journey of being a kickboxer, and how has it applied to your career?
I mean, there's a small number of kickboxers in the world generally.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I'll start by saying that. And then I think also, to be a professional athlete, like at a professional level, you have to put in like a crazy amount of work and dedication. And I think if you've got, a pretty intense or a really technical career, and you need to put in effort and thought and time into that, as well as a sport where you need to really just be training like 20 hours a week, that's a lot of work for a person, especially if they've got family and other things going on. So, that can be really full on, and that's probably why you don't see a lot of people doing that. I know from kickboxing, like a lot of the people who I train with or compete with are people who have careers in like a similar field, like a fitness related field.
Yeah, sure. You can just marry things up together.
Yeah, so it all kind of overlaps rather than, polar opposite. There's like a whole other conversation here about women in professional sports and, men, in the general world of professional sports. There are a lot of women who are professional athletes who actually need to have a full-time job as well. Because there's no way that you would make a salary to live on as a professional athlete, as a woman.
Even though Matilda's, like, recently, there was a big thing about it. Like, it's only recently that they've been able to just play football.
Yeah, exactly. There's that whole thing. So that's probably also part of the reason why you don't see a lot of it. But back to your question about what has it kind of taught me about being a leader and how do I apply that to my career. I think, kickboxing is a hard sport. It takes a lot of dedication, a lot of practice, a lot of hours. And to be good at it, you kind of have to be really resilient. And you have to, if you get it wrong, you just keep trying until you get it right, If you are trying to learn a combo or some technique, if you're not going to get it right the first time, you have to keep practicing, and that muscle memory eventually will just do magic, and you can just walk into situations and be more confident. So I think it's helped giving me confidence. But in terms of being a leader, I think the key thing that I've realised from it, without any concrete examples, is that someone's always looking up to you.
Oh,
like
really?
If you're in the spotlight, someone's always looking at you.
Yeah.
Like, you might not realise it, you might not think of yourself as being a role model, but there is someone who is looking at you and watching you and analysing you and thinking to themselves, either I want to be like that, or I definitely do not want to be like that.
Yeah, right, okay.
So you really have to be always showing your best self.
I was not expecting you to say that, and that's such an interesting parallel from that and being in the spotlight as a professional athlete, particularly in kickboxing. And yeah, that sounds like a bit of a mature realisation as well.
It is kind of a realisation that I've had since I've stopped kickboxing, so I'm actually no longer active.
Yeah.
And part of the reason that I'm no longer active is because my life changed, basically. When I started, I had just flipped my life around. I quit my job, I kicked my boyfriend out of my house, I started this new coding thing, I started this new kickboxing thing, and I was like on a journey for myself. And I had plenty of time because I just did what I wanted to do, which is I want to code all day and I want to train all night and I want to fight on the weekends. Great.
That's my life,
Times have changed. I'm a little bit older now. I have a partner now. We potentially want to have a family one day. My career in software is
doing pretty well.
It's elevating. As a kickboxer, that was starting to elevate as well. Somewhere along the line, I think you can't have everything.
Yeah.
And it kind of got to a point where I could not give everything my all. And maybe this is a lack of maturity, I'm not sure, but I don't want to do something that I can't give everything to.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm so like that as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's with things that I've done in my life.
Yeah. So I'm no longer active in kickboxing. I don't even go to the kickboxing gym. I don't even want to hear about going to the kickboxing gym. I don't want to see fights. Like, it's just going to, I don't know, make me feel sad or something because I can't be there giving it everything. And if I was giving it everything, if I could, then I would.
I get that. I think it's kind of like my personality as well. I have a very addictive personality, and it's like when I get hooked on something, it's like all in doing it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of I used to do like team sports and stuff, but like ever since going through being a teenager and growing up, I was always more addicted to individual sports. So I did a bit of boxing, did a bit of skateboarding, not a bit, did a lot of skateboarding, surfing, and then just I played like a semi-professional poker and stuff like that. But to each one, it was like got to a point where I've given it my all. I don't know if I can go any further.
Right.
And then I just stop. And it's like, it's kind of like you have a breakup with it, and it breaks your heart and stuff. It's kind of like you losing that identity, but you do grow out of it and you mature on it, but it's not like you don't want to. The only thing that I haven't, and I will never stop doing, is surfing. But right now, because I'm a father to two young boys, and I just don't have the time to surf as much as what I used to. And I hate just going, unless there's just everything about surfing I love. It's just like the solidarity, being by yourself, and the elements, everything. And I surf around here in Sydney. It's just a completely different experience. And it had made me a lot better surfer because you're having to surf around other people a lot more. But it still can be a bit annoying. So it's just like for the past, I haven't surfed in I don't know, almost a year now, and it's
wow.
Yeah. My wife would never she's like, you're a completely different person. I can't believe it, and I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's just not the same,
Exactly, 100%. So I decided to stop being active at the beginning of this year. I basically haven't been to the gym for the entire year, which is the weirdest thing. That's weird because I've just gone from the last 10 years training 20 hours a week every week to zero. But my hope is that, and I have this just idea in the back of my mind, that eventually I will go back to a kickboxing gym and do it for fun. Do the kind of fitness sort of thing, practice my technique, hit a bag hit some people,
Yeah.
but not like seriously compete again. Or maybe I will seriously compete again, but maybe, you know, when I'm an old lady.
Grandmas unite in the ring.
Well, there are a lot of women actually in kickboxing who get into it in their 40s, after they've had kids, after they've had their life, because it's one of the few sports you can actually become a professional in your later days, because I suppose it's a small pool of people. And women tend to get stronger as they get older. You know, they have more testosterone, less estrogen.
Oh, right.
Men kind of have less testosterone.
Yep.
Men peak in their early 20s, women peak in their kind of 30s or 40s. Yeah, so if I got it back into it later, it'd be easier to build muscle. Maybe there'd be a few more knockouts.
Yep. Well, look, you've learned some valuable lessons from it, and it's definitely been able to transfer to your career as a tech leader or a leader of software development teams. Has it always been, you know, a goal of yours to get into leadership from software development?
Yes.
Yep. You always wanted to be a leader? Yep.
Yeah. So I came from this hospitality management background, and I can tell you I was a terrible manager. When you're 20 and you are like the boss, I'm sure some people do it well, but I was terrible. Yeah. I couldn't take a holiday for like 3 years, and I was horrible to everyone, but I had something that everyone wanted. They wanted access to my bar, and they wanted discounts on their drinks, and I had the power to give them that. So I could just be an arsehole to you, and I don't think I did it on purpose. I'm just looking back now and thinking, yeah, I was a terrible person. Anyway, all this time later,
self-critic, yeah.
I definitely don't want to be how I was then, for sure. But the idea was always, you know, once I figured out that this coding thing was interesting and I wanted to be a software engineer, the idea was always that I would get in and I would get technical and I'd get hands on the tools and I'd learn the ropes and learn how to do things, and eventually then bring that management aspect back in and go back into a leadership role.
Yep.
Yep.
It's always funny when you look back on your previous careers and your previous roles and can have a chuckle and realise, oh, what was I doing?
Yeah, 100%.
So, and like going back to what you said before about being in the spotlight and always being a role model, and I think like, you know, that just is such a powerful way of like taking a step back on yourself and realising that you have an impact on other people. And like in this day and age, it's not just the people you work with, right? Like it's,
right.
Yeah, and particularly with where you're taking your career, with the outside work around the speaking and the leadership around that as well, and you know, spreading all that news. Yeah, there's always people looking up to you, and you don't know who they are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They're like half the time they're not even going to say it.
Yeah.
You know? You just got these, you know, silent haters, and you've got these silent praisers, and you don't know who you're having an impact on. And it could come out years later that, oh, I saw this person say this thing one time and that inspired me.
And it 100% happens. I know it's happened for me as well, like being that person.
Yeah.
Hearing someone say something and it's kind of like a silent moment of awe and you're like, just got to do it.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, take action, it's inspired me. Yeah. And you always want to meet that person.
Yeah.
Later on. Not in that moment, but later on, I find sometimes like always when I'm like, all right, I want to do it, and then if you achieve in doing it or wherever that path takes you, you always remember that person in that
That's
moment,
right.
how they made you feel. Yeah. So, but look, taking a look at your career when you got into engineering and then progressed pretty quickly to where you are right now. So I saw you had a recent title change into team lead, but you're like head of delivery as well, most recently. So what do you think has aided that career progression being pretty quick? Because I don't often see it like getting into the level where you are in 4 or 5 years?
Around about. I'm about 7 years into my career now, but I have definitely been in my team lead position for a couple of years. Yep. So yeah, about 5 years. I think there's a couple of things that have helped. One is that, well, I don't know how much this helped, but one is that I was already sort of, 28, 27 when I started in this career. So I'd already had this life and I'd already done a few things beforehand. I think that's really helpful, because as much as everyone when they're 20 hates to hear it, when you're 20 you have no idea.
You have no idea. Yeah.
You know, I definitely look back now, and at the time, if anyone said that to me, I would have been like, you are a dick. But actually, when I was 20, I had no idea. So there you go. You realise that later in life. But then the other thing, the real big push for me was Fresho.
Yep.
So I've been at Fresho for 6 years now. When I came to Fresho, I had 1.5 years on the tools in this other company. But I was working mainly by myself there, right? And as soon as I came to Fresho, what do we do at Fresho? We are 100% pair programming.
Yep.
So I am the most junior person on the team. Everyone else around me has got 10 to 20 years of experience on the tools already, because they were generally a team of senior engineers, a team of 8 of us, and I'm pairing all day, every day. So I'm seeing and I'm learning from these people who have been doing this for 20 years, you know? And you start to, you know, it just fast tracks you like insane, because you're exposed to these decisions, you're making the right decisions, you're looking at all these trade-offs that you might not have even considered because you've never come across that before. And so you're like a sponge, like absorbing all of that information and that knowledge. So I'd say pair programming is the biggest thing, and pairing with experienced people, as well as people that are at my level, and also now kind of people that are more junior as well.
Yep.
You absolutely learn from everything.
Yeah. That's moving on to the next question about being a big advocate in pair programming, and you talk about it a lot in your speaking gigs. But if you could go down to specifically like the benefits of it for us now and how it has helped you, what would they be? For
an individual, or for a piece of work, or for a company? Oh, so many levels.
So many levels. Yeah. Start with you as an individual.
So me as an individual, I get, well, actually, do you know what the number one benefit of pair programming for everyone? Fast feedback.
Continuous feedback loop, yeah.
You get instant feedback. Instant feedback,
yeah.
So we actually also don't work on branches at Fresho, but if you worked on a branch, you might write some code, you're off on a branch, and then a couple of weeks later, you finish that feature, and then you send it off for a pull request, and then somebody reviews your code, and then they come back to you, and then you get the results, and then you go, oh, okay, I need to rewrite everything.
Yep, that feedback loop takes a long time.
That's right. But if you're pairing, you've literally got somebody with you right now to say, oh, we actually did it this other way somewhere else. Oh, well, what about this? Oh, what about that? If you get to a point where because when you're coding, you've just got all of these micro decisions you need to make, all the time. There's always more than one way to skin a cat.
Yep.
I know you're a cat lover.
I'm not a cat lover. Come on, keep going. Yeah. But I don't mind them. I think they're pretty cool creatures. Yeah. Anyway.
But there's always more than one way to do something. So anytime you start typing, you go, oh, I could do it this way, or I could do it that way, or I could do it that way, or I could do it that way. And by having somebody else to have that instant feedback, you can talk through all of these options. Maybe they've got some options you didn't think of, and you can quickly come to what is the best
where you deem is the
solution
best
here. And then you can just get on and just do the work, deliver the results, rather than, kind of sitting by yourself going, oh, I could do this, I could do that, and then effectively getting like analysis paralysis, where you sit there for a day weighing up all of these options and still not having any conclusion to move forward.
Yep.
Know?
Okay,
so
cool.
fast feedback is number one.
Yeah. So I'm a big learner or student, I would say, of flow state. Have you heard of that?
No.
Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. So flow state is like, when you're kickboxing and you're just so focused and present in that moment, and I don't know, when you have a really good training session or something where you're training or you're sparring against someone who is maybe just a little bit better than you.
Yeah.
And, you're just completely focused. So you're not beaten, but you're not bored, and you're just pushing yourself and using everything in your ability to maintain. So that's that's basically being in a state of flow. It's like and then what happens there, the magic is, I can see the cogs, the wheels turning in your head right now, but is you grow so much in those very small moments because you're just hyper focused, and it's like all of your brain is firing and wiring together. And one of the key core facets of what he identified as flow state is a very fast feedback loop. So if you can manipulate your environment in the work environment to provide a very fast feedback loop, you're creating part of what flow state, of enabling people to be in a flow state. So that's one of them, an immediate feedback loop. Another one is like focusing usually on just one task at a time. Another one is like, eliminate all distractions, where the challenge or the problem is just slightly higher than your ability, than your current ability, but not too extreme. Because if it's too extreme, you get into a state of anxiety, or you can't do it, or stuff like that, or fear even. And if it's not high enough, you get bored.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you know what? Pairing helps with all of that, because you've got a pair with you to help keep you focused. Like, you can't be distracted because now you're accountable to somebody else.
Yes, accountability. Right? Yeah, I like it.
And so they help keep you focused. Sometimes they bring distractions. Sometimes, every pair is a different dynamic. So sometimes you might get the person who's always checking messages on Slack, and you have to bring them back in to go, hold on, can we focus on this?
And it's your responsibility to be that,
Yeah, so you help each other out with that, and then nobody's on their own. So it's, especially as we go remote now as well, like if you imagine everyone remote, you're sitting at home by yourself in front of your computer, zero feedback, zero communication. Maybe you close Slack and you're just completely on your own. Well, you could be, you could be just off doing something different other than work, but let's give people the benefit of the doubt and assume they're working. Chances are you're probably, in your own head going, oh my God, what do I do? How do I do it? Is that what they want? I'm not sure what they want. And by having this other person there, you've got somebody to feed off. And sometimes you get stuck, and together you can solve that problem. Together you have fun as well. Like, I don't know about you, like everything's way more fun with friends. So if you've got somebody else and you're both getting this kick out of like, oh, we did that thing and it worked. Yeah, awesome. Okay, we're motivated to do the next thing, and you can feed off each other. And really just knock it out of the park.
What I love about is someone said to me once, I don't know, or it's not someone said to me, but it's a big quote. It's like, one-on-one is a relationship. As soon as there's 1 to 2 or more, it's politics. Yeah.
100%.
And yeah. So it's not just about you and the other person, and it's something happens and it becomes about either you being the best person or someone else trying to put it on. Yeah. So it sounds like it really allows you to develop relationships.
It does.
In a professional manner with other people. You're solving problems together, but then you get to do it with other people as well, like not just with different pairs. So you're building actual relationships with other people in your team. Yeah,
that's right. It's really interesting you brought that up about politics and groups and relationships and one-to-one, because I don't know if other people have kind of observed this as well, but I've certainly observed for myself having conversations with somebody, we're pairing together, we're working on something, and it's very neutral, the conversation, the ground, like no idea is a dumb idea, let's explore all the ideas, we're at the same level here, right? And then you can actually find yourself going into a group with the same person and other people as well, and all of a sudden that person is just crushing your ideas and shooting them down. Not to say that that's how we do it at Fresho, it's just experiences I've had. I've observed now since I do a lot of this pairing.
Yeah. I think I see it a lot with some of my mates as well, the blokes, like one-on-one, that is completely different to when they are in a group environment. It's like they just going to being like, a real genuine, open, honest, vulnerable man.
Yeah, that's right.
People who I don't know, and then in a group environment, being a dickhead alpha male, like
that's right.
What's that about?
Like the person who's like the clown, or the person who's like got to be right about everything or have the last word. You get them in a one-on-one. Actually, it's pretty bearable.
Yeah. All right, cool. And then you'll touch on remote working. So pair programming, you just said it was pretty beneficial to remote working in terms of like sort of breaking away from that isolation of what you get.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you guys do it in a remote environment?
So we actually have it pretty easy at Fresho because we've always been pair programming. So I've been there for 6 years, and about 6.5 years ago, Fresho got its first CTO, Perrin Fowler. He is ex kind of ThoughtWorks, very big on BDD, pair programming, and working on trunk. And he implemented that early on. I think at the time we had a team of consultants, and he planned to gradually replace each consultant with an internal developer. So everyone who came on to Fresho, our first 8 developers, were all sold on the idea that we would be pairing 100% of the time, we would be working on trunk, and we would be doing multi-layer outside and BDD. And if you weren't interested in pairing, we weren't going to hire you. So that was the way we wanted to set it up. We obviously were kind of a startup at that time. We've kind of scaled a bit. The teams are a little bit bigger now. We've now split from one team of 8 into 3 teams of about 5. And we're growing those ones as well. We still have it written into our engineering principles that we have no lone wolves. We pair on everything wherever possible. Obviously, 100% pair programming sounds really extreme. It sounds like we're 8 hours a day constantly in a conversation with another person. The reality is that doesn't happen. Because you've got all these meetings, you've got stand-ups, you've got showcases, you've got tech talks, you've got other things that happen. And people are sick sometimes, so there's room for solo time as well. But in general, whenever there's a good piece of work on, we want to share the knowledge as much as possible. So there's kind of, a couple of times a day, there's these chunks of pairing time. And again, we had the benefit because when I first started 6 years ago, we were all based in Melbourne. We were all in the office. We didn't have a remote option. There was no policy for that. And so we all paired together in person. The team has largely stayed. We have had a really low turnover. And so then when COVID happened and we went remote, we said, well, we've always paired. We're going to continue pairing. We're just going to move to a remote environment. We acknowledge it's going to be more difficult. And so we're going to have to make sure that we have more breaks than we ordinarily would. Because people are going to be exhausted. So we use this tool called Tuple, which is great screen sharing tool.
What's it called? Tuple.
Tuple. I don't know. It depends how you say it. Do people say tuples?
I don't know. Tuples.
Tuples are like pairs.
Maybe tuples.
Anyway, we call it Tuple. But how do you spell it?
So is this a pair pro for all the pair programming numpties out there? Not on this side of the table anyway. Is it a pair programming tool specifically, or is it a
screen sharing tool?
Screen sharing tool.
I think they mainly advertise that it's for pairing. It's Tuple. Tuple. They have all these great features, like you can click this button and then all of a sudden there's like a table flip, and you can click this button and everything on your screen burns on fire. It's great. You can draw on someone else's. You can draw on someone else's screen. You can actually take control of the other person's screen and like mouse and stuff.
Oh, that's fun.
Although you should definitely ask them before you do that. And don't leave your computer unlocked. It's not that bad. But yeah, so we went and did that. Yeah, we had it really easy at Fresho because we were already doing it this way. And this is how we just did it from the beginning. But if it was a larger organisation that doesn't pair, or any organisation, in fact, that doesn't pair already, I don't know how you would switch to get them pairing. Because the thing is, a lot of people are against pair programming. And the main reason is because to do it well and to be effective, you have to be 100% vulnerable. You have to be talking out loud your raw thoughts as you're having them, and be prepared that they're going on the wrong tangent. You're in a constant negotiation for the whole day. So it's really daunting. It's really draining.
Yep.
It takes a lot of energy. It takes quite a bit of practice to be good at it. And so you've obviously got to commit a bit of time to be able to do it. And that just sounds like a lot of work, right?
Yep.
So you can see why a lot of people go, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, sure.
But until you can, understand and believe in the benefits, you're probably not going to want to try it.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of conversations with people where they go, I'm a senior developer. I don't need help doing X, Y, Z. I know how to do it myself.
Yep.
The reason we peer is not because you don't know how to do it yourself.
Yeah.
It's because we want to share the knowledge. We want to make sure anyone can have a holiday anytime they want. Any piece of work will continue, whether you are here or not here. We want to have kind of standard, ways of doing things across the whole wider team.
Yep. And I can see that the benefits of being in that environment would so much outweigh the cons, but like there would always be a push to change the way like some people are. Like if you are, exactly what you said, I'm a senior developer, I would, almost think that, am I getting held back if I'm in a pairing with like a junior dev?
Yeah.
Or something like that. Like, is that going to impact my day to do what I should be doing and stuff? Like, there'd be like some sort of like barriers around that sort of entry. And then, like, would it? You said you're either 100% in as a business, or you can't just do parts of it, or can you?
So, I mean, I don't have really the experience to comment on that.
Yeah.
I know that some companies do some pairing, or they pair when we have a hard problem.
Yep.
And I guess that can work. I mean, obviously companies do it, so it must work to some extent. But I'm completely sold on pair programming, I'm like biased.
Yeah, and if I look at it from your career and perspective and how you've just grown and developed so quickly, like it's been like a foundational part of your everyday habit of going to work in pairing.
Yeah, for sure. But I mean, like I said, there is still room for solo development as well. So even though we're 100% pairing at Fresho, I think about 2 years in, I sort of started saying, well, look, I actually need to solo now.
Yeah, sure.
Because I'm not confident that I can do anything by myself since I always have somebody with me. And so then I started doing a few kind of like smaller solo things. Went, okay, cool, I'm convinced I can do stuff by myself. No worries. Now I still do a few solo things, but the emphasis is more on sharing the knowledge of what have I learned and what am I doing, so that everyone's across it and aware of it, and it obviously makes sense. But yeah, primarily pairing just keeps you focused. It keeps you on track. It keeps you accountable to other people. It means that everything's not on you.
Yep.
Like we've talked about, I've travelled a lot this year. How could I possibly be leading a team and delivering value and delivering features if I'm travelling that much and nobody else is across what I'm doing?
Yeah.
So I can just leave at the drop of a hat and somebody else can pick it up.
At least one person can come in and pick it up for you because they're there in day to day. Yeah.
So I do want to just add one more comment because obviously I like to talk. Must be this coffee. We mentioned about senior developers kind of sitting there going, I'm a senior developer, I can figure that out for myself, and working with junior is going to hold me back. Actually, for all of the people who think that, I think working with a junior developer is going to elevate you, because now what you have to do is you have to make sure somebody else is across whatever thoughts you've got going on, and it's going to take longer for that feature or that piece of work to get produced, right? But by influencing somebody else to deliver what you've got in mind, you're actually elevating yourself to be more senior, maybe move into one of those staff engineer roles or principal engineer roles, because you're now able to communicate and articulate what you've got going on in your mind, have somebody else deliver it, and elevate yourself to one of those leadership positions, which are not necessarily management, but still leadership nonetheless.
Yep. Yeah, so fantastic benefits there as well. And it's really honing in on not just your technical ability, but that's soft skills. So it's translating your internal thoughts, communicating to someone else's or ability for them to understand as well.
That's right.
Yeah, and get them further, which, can open doors to other areas of their career.
100%.
100%. All right, cool. Speaking scene, let's cut into that. So what got you into doing talks?
Do you know what? I don't know. Somebody planted an idea one time. I think it might have even been Tom, the guy that introduced me to coding, who kind of planted this idea one time that you should think about getting into speaking. And obviously I didn't do it straight away, but after I'd kind of been, at Fresho for about a year, it's around 5 years ago, I had been working a lot with Michael during work. He and I were paired up quite a bit.
Oh, yeah.
And we got along really well. Like we had a good time. We had some similarities. We were both into a bit of fitness and running at the time. I really wanted to upskill. He's really motivated in, working with people who are less skilled than he is to bring them up. He was doing like hackathons, and we went to a couple of hackathons together. He was like really into the local scene. So he's from Melbourne, and I was new here to Australia when I first started. He kind of knew all the people, and we went along to the Ruby meetup and the JavaScript meetup and all these places. And at some point I just went, you know what, maybe I should just do a talk. Yeah. And I'm going to talk about how I got into software. So I started with that. And it's kind of funny because he's a bit competitive. Okay. So he decided he's going to give a talk on the same day. Oh, yeah? Arsehole. So I give She's going to do it. Yeah. So I give this talk about my journey of becoming a software developer, and then he does this bloody technical talk and has all these comments and questions, and I'm just like, did you just upstage me? Did you know he was going to do it, or did he just be like, oh, thank you, Selena? Well, you have to tell them in advance that you're going to do it, so he knew in advance. But I think in his mind he was thinking, I'm going to support Selena. Yeah, of course, yeah. By doing the same thing. Sorry, Michael, if you listen to this, I retract my former statement. So anyway, we did that, and it was good fun, and I was like, oh, that's so good. I feel really good, and people seem to enjoy the talk, and I feel like I did a good delivery, and it was great. And we kind of kept talking afterwards. Because we were into a bit of hobby coding, I suppose, and like some of this hobby stuff. And we said, I can't remember which one we started with, but we had two ideas at some point. One was we were really into this outside-in BDD that we're doing at Fresho. So we wanted to run a testing workshop. And then the other one was we're both into pairing. And we came up at some point with this idea for this crazy pairing talk to just show all of the things you should not do when you're pair programming. All right. To just try and, bring it to light, make it funny, make it entertaining. Yeah. It's like half a comedy act, I remember you telling me, yeah. It is 100% comedy act. Yeah. How good. But yeah, so we started with the workshop for BDD, and we did that a couple of times in the local meetups, and we did it together because we had similar ideas about what we wanted to do, and we kind of decided at some point, you know what, we pair all day to deliver work. Why don't we just pair on these presentations as well, and we can just do a way better job than either of us would do on our own. And so we did this BDD workshop, and we put in a submission, and we ended up getting accepted in 2019 to RailsConf Minneapolis. Wow. And we were like, oh my God, this is great. That's a big deal. We're going to do this 3-hour workshop in Minneapolis. It's going to be fantastic. So we wrote this 3-hour workshop. We did a few practice runs, and there were a few hiccups. We got to Minneapolis, and we read the roster, and we saw that it was actually 2 hours, not 3 hours. Oh, shit. And we thought, fuck. So we spent like a day and a half just like cutting it down, rewriting some stuff. And it was a phenomenal experience. It was an interesting conference because what they did was they had workshops that were 2 hours, and then they had talks that were like 45 minutes that started every hour. they were running at the same time.
Right.
So we had this room full of people for our workshop, and we go, oh, this is cool. Heaps of people are really into it. It's great. Start doing our workshop. We get about 1 hour in, half the room gets up and leaves.
Nightmare.
And we're just like mid-sentence, and I just remember sitting there and just looking out and just going like, do I keep going? Like, what's happening? Yeah. Like, is there an emergency? And it's so lucky actually that Michael was there too, because if he wasn't there, I don't know, I think I would have just cried or something.
Yeah,
like,
I know. Yeah.
So disheartening.
Oh, there's nothing more disheartening than something like that happens. I get upset when if I'm giving a talk, if one person gets up and leaves.
Oh,
I
really?
find it very distracting, yeah. That's just me. I have a precious ego, you know.
Okay, no offence, but that's not as bad. Someone might need the toilet, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm okay with that.
Look, that's okay. Yeah. They get a pass if they got to go to the toilet. Yeah.
But yeah, that was like crazy. And so there were a few other reasons why that wasn't necessarily the best kind of presentation we've ever done.
It's your first one.
We had huge arguments and almost just never talked to each other again after that.
Ooh, right.
Yeah. But somewhere along the line, maybe, I don't know, 6 or 8 months after, we obviously are suckers for punishment, because we got back together and said, oh, let's do this pairing talk.
Yeah.
And let's not do a workshop, let's do a talk. We had this idea about a pairing talk. We learned a lot of things about presenting and seeing other people do other duo presentations.
Oh, yeah.
And we realised, if you're going to have 2 people do a presentation, you've got to have a reason for 2 people.
Okay.
You can't have like a 1-person script and then 2 different people read it. Like, you need to have 2 different people. Like, why is there even 2 people there?
Yep.
And so then we kind of started developing these like characters or personas, and we tried to make this interactive script. And the pair programming talk is probably the most famous one for us.
Yeah.
Because, well, how else do you demonstrate pair programming without 2 presenters?
Without 2 people, yeah.
So, we kind of just, illustrate all of the things that you should not do when you're pairing.
Have you got a recorded one online?
There are a few.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we'll link them to the show notes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely.
I have to watch. I haven't watched one, so I need to do it.
There's some really
Sounds
good ones.
Yeah.
Got a couple of tips for you if you're pairing.
Yep.
Don't clip your toenails at the pairing desk.
Don't clip your toenails at the pairing desk. Yeah. That sounds absolutely disgusting. It reminds me of this. This happened to me. You're gonna freaking freak. But if you've encountered someone clipping their toenails at the pairing desk, you might not freak as much, because I called the train back the other day. This guy just starts clipping his nails, like fingernails, not toenails, but fingernails, just on the train. But get this right, he's got his clippers there, and he's opened his bag, and he's clipping it into, like, he had like a... And I'm thinking, this can't be happening to me. Like, what?
At least he's not leaving them on the seat for you.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but like... He had like a container in his bag, so like a box. So he's premeditated.
Yeah.
Like, does he just do this on the time?
Maybe he's saving them up.
Maybe. Maybe he's conducting his own social experiment, right? And look, I didn't say anything, okay? And like, I did a post on the sea, like, would you say something? And like, I could tell the lady behind me, she was itching us, so she was like this. And like, I'm doing the same thing. Like, and I'm looking at the stations and when my station is, and like, my station's like a couple away. And I'm like, oh, it's getting closer. If I say something now, it's just going to be, and then all these things, I'm like, I've got to say, and then he gets off at the next station. So he's like, oh, he's gone. And like, immediately the lady behind me was like, sigh of relief. But like, I'm like, man, and I'm kicking myself right now. Like, it still gets me that I didn't say anything,
okay,
you know?
Okay, but can you just picture this for a minute?
Yeah.
So when you're in-person pairing, it's like 2 people, 1 machine, 1 desk.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Right? So I'm here at this desk and you're here at the same desk.
Yeah, so you only have the 1 machine. Yeah.
And someone's clipping their nails. Could be fingernails, sure. And they're putting them on the desk that you're sitting at.
No.
Okay. Real life experience.
That's real life experience. that's just disgusting. What if that nail like flicked up and hit you in the eye or something? Like, I mean, you'd have a laugh about it like 10 years later. By that time, I would be absolutely furious. That is like
you
horrible.
might have a laugh.
So that actually happened to you. Or
well, it happened to Michael.
To Michael.
But I was kind of sitting opposite, just laughing.
You were the person cutting the nail. No. Yeah. All right.
No, it was a good time.
Yeah, fair.
But yeah, I do want to just touch on this really quickly.
Yeah, sure. No, it's okay.
So with the pair presenting, so now it's kind of evolved a little bit, right? So we kind of mentioned this idea about diversity at some point. What I really, really want to do with this this pair presenting now, so we don't only do funny talks, we do technical talks sometimes as well. We recently built a kickboxing robot.
Oh, yeah.
We went over to Japan to demo that.
Nice. Like actual robot?
It is there is actual hardware.
No
yes.
way.
Yep, it's a good time. Don't get too excited.
Yeah.
You can watch the video.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Are you the robot?
No. No, the idea is that I fight the robot.
Oh, right, you fight the robot. Yeah.
It's a training device, but anyway, let's not get distracted here.
Okay.
We can do a follow-up sometime.
Yes, definitely.
The thing that I really want to do with this pair presenting is I want to, we talked about leadership and role models, and we've talked about diversity a little bit as well. What I really want to do is I want to show people, I want to demonstrate what does it mean to be equitable? What does it look like for men and women to work together and be seen as equals and equal leaders and equal technologists on the stage? I want it to be normalised that, men and women, they're the same.
Yep.
You know, it's not like, oh, there's a woman.
Yep.
What is she doing here? Is she a designer? Because that's another classic. That is actually a real life experience. I've worked 100%. into a Ruby meetup. Ruby is a back-end programming language. And I walked into a Ruby meetup, and actually it wasn't you, but it was a recruiter who I was introduced to, and he shook my hand and he said, oh, are you a designer? I said to him, no, I didn't say anything, but I literally thought to myself, why would a designer be at a back-end Ruby developer meetup?
I don't know.
You know? So yeah, I want to help to just normalise
that
it.
Poor person didn't know the roundhouse kick that was coming to it.
Well, yeah, it was just tragic. I've got 100 stories similar. These conferences.
It's a bias that comes with it. Yeah.
That's right. I've turned up to conferences as a speaker, met up with the other speakers. They've all kind of shook hands with each other and then looked at me and assumed that I'm Michael's wife.
Yeah, wow. At
which stage I'm like, well, but if one of you walked in with him, no one would assume that you were his husband, So yeah, what I really want to get out of it is I want it to be normal.
Yeah.
That we're just people. We're just equal people with similar, similar expertise.
Yeah. That goes on to the next part of what we're going to talk about in being diversity and being a woman in a male-dominated industry. And you've just touched on I've touched on a couple of the biases that you've felt and been impacted in your career. And I guess my question would be, what advice would you give to other females or even other men? Like now listening to that, it's like probably the females didn't really need the advice. It's probably like the men probably need the advice, right? To who are thinking of progressing or starting out their career or. Yeah,
right.
But yeah, that question in itself is probably like, why would I? I'm just thinking of myself now. It's like from that feedback, it's not the women that need the advice.
Not always.
Yeah.
No. I think, personally, I prefer working with men. I get along better with men. I find them just easier to deal with. They're kind of easier to get along with. They're less emotional. But I think that's actually a bias from myself.
Sure.
Coming from, I don't know, high school, maybe I didn't get along with girls. Maybe I wasn't part of the clique.
Yep.
And it was just easier to get along with guys. And ever since then, I've been like, I'm more interested in things that guys are interested in. And they're just easier to get along with. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think... I think for women and for experiences that I've had, there is a lot of talk about diversity in the industry and women being underrepresented and getting an unfair chance. And it's actually potentially talked about so much that it can be detrimental and that you can come in with this perception that you're going to be treated unfairly.
Yeah, right.
So I've certainly had experiences when I've been starting out, for example, where people have made comments or said things, and I'm not sure if they're making an assumption that I'm a woman and I don't know, or I'm a junior and I don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So an example is, like red is kind of a reserved colour, and so if you've got red all over your application, people are going to just immediately look at that and think, shit, there's an error. And there was a situation, not at Fresho, in my previous role, where one of the guys I worked with had come up with this design, and it was basically this red and white whole UI design. And I said, everything looks like an error. Maybe you should look at, using black and white with a little bit of red, or, minimising the red, or a different colour of red, or something like that, because it just looks like everything's an error. And it was just, ignored. This other senior man comes along, says the same thing, and all of a sudden it changes. And I'm left sitting there going, was I not convincing? Maybe I was not convincing enough, right? And I know I'm not experienced, but was it ignored when I said it because I'm a junior or because I'm a woman? Or both?
Yeah.
So, but I feel like if I didn't know about this whole diversity issue, I would have never questioned whether it was because I'm a woman.
Yes. Yeah. Do
you know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's one thing to just kind of be aware of. Like, don't overthink it.
Yep.
And do what you really love doing.
Yeah.
Because I've kind of got a bit hung up on that.
Yep.
Like, if you're good, you probably are, and you find the right culture, you're going to be just as successful as everyone else. So this is my message for women, I suppose.
Yeah.
And if you're not in the right culture, find somewhere else.
Yeah. You're not a tree.
You kind of want to find your allies.
Yeah.
Right? And obviously for men, never assume that the only woman in the room is a designer or a PA. If you go into a room full of people you don't know and you're shaking hands with all the men, shake hands with the women too.
Yeah, of course.
Don't treat people differently because they look different.
Yeah.
Or they talk different. You have no idea.
Touched on a very important word, I think, is equity as opposed to equality, right? What does that mean to you?
Oh, do you know what? I've just given a talk about this and I can never remember the difference without a diagram.
Is it the people standing up on blocks?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good diagram.
No, it is a good diagram. So I can't remember which is which. Maybe you can remind me. One of them is about people having the same opportunity.
Yeah. I think
that's
the easiest
equity.
way. The easiest way of the easiest way is how I remember it is equality is like you would treat everyone the same. So like, let's say I wanted to play basketball. I'm going to give the guys 10 foot tall, the same amount of shots at a ring as a person who's 4 foot tall from the halfway line or something like that.
Sure.
They're more likely to get in because they're 10 feet tall or something like that.
Yeah.
Whereas equity would be like giving that person who's 4 foot tall a little bit more of a head start. I think that's kind of like it. It's like a bit of a boost, or it's recognising that people have differences or have come from a different background to get to where they are. So it's like that's how I understand it. It's like if you treat someone equally, you're kind of ignoring a lot of. It's hard to actually treat someone equally because you're not really treating them equally. You're treating them without taking into constraints like how they got there or who they are as a person and their things like that. I think that's how I break it down and see it.
That is the difference between the two. I'm just not sure that you've given the right label to the right one.
Probably not. Yeah, probably not. Yeah, that's what The basketball analogy is something I just made up right then. It's not really there.
It's actually not bad.
Yeah.
The boxes is the classic one.
The boxes one, yeah. It's kind of like if I were to, like, the way it's breaking down is like, and they're trying to do it with universities and stuff like that, is like if you look at someone who's come from, and the big thing in Sydney as well, and getting into like Sydney unis and University of New South Wales, is they're trying to do things where it gives people more equality, like a level playing field of, if someone gets a UAI from like Western Sydney as opposed to like a private school in the eastern suburbs, the effort that has to go into getting like a top UAI from that person from a lower socioeconomic background is usually 10 times more.
That's
because
right.
of the, so do you treat them equally?
Like evening up the opportunity.
Yeah,
like the
that's like giving someone more equity. That's how I see it, and to me it makes a lot of sense.
100%. I'm going to throw a question back to you now. How do we give underrepresented people a better opportunity
in life,
technology?
or in technology, in getting into technology?
Well, not only getting in, but also the opportunities that come after you're in. So there's a lot of push at the moment to have more, like I said, there's always been this talk about more diversity, more women, more diversity of thought, so people from different backgrounds, people who've done different things. And some of it is about getting more women, but some of it is also about getting people who've got different backgrounds or people who've come from different places and things like that. And so there's a lot of push to get those people in the door, but is there really much push to get them,
help them succeed or
up the ladder as well?
Yeah.
You know, because if you look at kind of the top end of companies, there's not that much diversity
there's more Andrews
executive roles, board roles, top leadership roles.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is because, well, there's a small number of them in the first place. All the companies that have them want ones that already have experience.
Yep.
And the ones that already have experience are all a group of people that kind of look and act the same way.
Yeah, exactly the same way. Yeah, and usually people associate that look and feel to that as well now, which goes into like a whole nother sort of
that's right.
mind fuck around like what it is that you deem as successful. It's what people visual representation. That's the unconscious bias, which is like so amazing to see. Macquarie Bank CEO being a female, it's insane to see that. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, which is great. And it goes down to being like, you can't be what you can't see. And I think like having people in leadership for me is providing pathways to, and showing that equity and having companies do that. I'm not in this position, so I don't know how people would do it, but so I can only talk about what I see as what could be a level or increasing a level playing field is giving people more access to that educational foundation to get into where they need to be in leadership, and providing that leadership and guidance to get in there, to show examples to other women and other people from other diverse backgrounds, as opposed to the white guy named Andrew who's or I was going to say Michael. Michael's a very, very common name, but apparently, I was going to say, I said it before, there's more CEOs named Andrew on the ASX 200 than there are women.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, there's this trade-off between, do you do the easy thing that has a proven track record, or do you do something a little bit harder that's going to take a little bit more effort that might actually be, completely ingenuitive?
You're in tech. You're disrupting the world. This is what it's all about.
Well, that's the theory, but unfortunately I don't make the decisions.
Yeah. Yet. I love it. Dynamite MT. That was your name, right?
That is the gym that I trained at.
That was the gym? I thought that was your name. What was your name? Selena Small.
My name is Selena.
Selena. You didn't have Selena. Yeah. I was like, Dynamite. That's epic. All right, fair enough. Selena, thank you so much for coming in, sharing your wisdom. It's been an absolute pleasure. We touched on a lot, and I hope that sharing this to people out there is going to inspire and give some guidance and wisdom to them to, make the change again in software development, or, adopt pair programming, or seek out a culture that has pair programming to elevate their careers, so scale up their careers.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. No, I hope this reaches some people that feel a little bit of inspiration, or just hear something and they go, oh, have one of those aha moments.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone who's just up for a good story.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, we've got some quick fire questions. Okay. Before we close off, who was the most influential person in your career and why?
Probably the guy who got me. Well, I don't know.
Tom Clancy? What's his name?
Tom Clancy. Isn't he like a? Isn't that like
that's
a
why
video
I remembered
game?
It. No, yeah. No. Was it Tom or was it?
I think it's a tie between Tom Cully, who got me into software in the first place. Obviously had a huge influence because I wouldn't even be here without him.
Yep.
And then the other one that's kind of undisputable is probably Perrin Fowler as well, who is the CTO, or was the CTO of Fresho when I joined. Yep. He introduced me to pair programming, testing outside in BDD, trunk-based development. He gave me the opportunity at Fresho in Australia, and Fresho is where I have 100% scaled up.
Yep.
So, without him...
Huge shout out to him, yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
100%.
Yep. Fantastic.
Bit of a tie.
Bit of a tie, yeah. They do sound like some pretty great leaders, mentors.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. What habits do you attribute to your success?
Oh, I always associate habit with a bad thing.
Ooh, okay.
Sounds bad.
It does sound bad.
What habits? Ooh, I don't know. I don't know if it's a habit or a trait, but I'm kind of obsessive.
Yep.
So if I get into something and I really like it, I'll just
picked up on that.
Keep doing it and doing it and doing it and just do it till it's dead.
That hard work ethic, just going at it non-stop.
I think so. Yep.
Okay.
I mean, it's good and it's bad, right? Because sometimes you actually need to take a break from that and step away and do something else completely different, and then you kind of come back and go, oh yeah, could have just done that in the first place.
All right, cool. And what about your favourite book? And it could be like I tend to talk about leadership books, stuff like that as well, like if you've read any, or it could just be like a favourite book of why.
You know what, it's not bad if you cut this question out, because I'm not a reader.
You're not a reader?
Yeah.
All right.
It's a terrible thing to tell people. People should be readers.
Yeah.
I wish I was a reader.
Yeah.
I would like to read. I'm actually reading right now. I'm really attempting to read about the fundamentals of psychology. I'm kind of interested in that at the moment.
What are you reading?
I can't remember what it's called. It's like the fundamentals of psychology.
Oh, it's called the fundamentals of psychology. Yeah. Oh, okay, cool.
Or it might be the Little Book of Psychology.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of just like this. Each chapter is like about an influential person in the study of psychology and what they attributed and what they did, and kind of like an overview highlight of all these different things that have happened. Anyway, I think...
Is that your favourite book?
It's just the book I'm currently reading.
It sounds like it's your favourite book right now.
Like I said, I don't really read. People should read, though. I wish I was a better reader.
Selena, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Very, very, very grateful to have you here, and feel like I have personally grown a lot.
Awesome.
I wish in height, but definitely in stature.